One of the questions that I've been asked over the years from people that I've worked with, or people that wanted to do what I've done before, and the question is, what is better, working hourly or working as a licensed contractor or as a subcontractor? What's the benefits? What's the cost? What's the risks? In this video, that's what I want to talk about, is why today, as far as today, I am an hourly worker. Now, I do have contractor's license, different ones. I'm not working with any of them right now. I'm just an hourly worker. And I want to talk about why I do hourly, why I'd rather do hourly, and my experiences when I've been a contractor. Now, the first thing I'll say is that all depends on the personality. And there's two things that are really, really important when I say personality. I mean, what are your spending habits? Well, actually, it's going to be three. What are your spending habits? What are your work ethics? And how you manage people. Now, I was a foreman for many, many years. I poured concrete for many years, and I was a concrete foreman, and I was really good at managing people. I could push people. I could get a lot done. I knew how to, discipline employees. I knew how to push them. I did have a lot of experience as a foreman. So I did know how to run people. I did know how to estimate jobs. I didn't know all this. I knew. The one thing I didn't realize when I started as a contractor is that for me, and that's only me. For me, it's easier, or I feel more responsibility when it's somebody else's money. And what I mean by this is, when I'm a foreman, when I've been a foreman or a lead man or a supervisor or anything like that, I've always been able to push people because I feel the responsibility. I'm between the owner of the company or the management and the employees, and I'm the person in the middle, and I've always known, how to manage that. But when it came to my own money, my own contracts, I was a little bit more lenient because it was my money. I was a little bit less careless, and this is me being honest. I'm not gonna say this, do that. I'm just talking about my personality and what has worked for me and what has not worked for me. Now, when I was managing my own money or my own contracts, I was a little bit more lenient. I was okay. I knew how much money I was making. I let a lot of stuff slide by. I may not have pushed so hard. I was not as strict with the workers as I was when I was a foreman. Now, that's my flaw, and I recognize it. I know it. It's not something I can change overnight. It's just the way it is. It was my money. I knew I was making good money, so sometimes I was a little bit more lenient. Now, the other thing is how you manage your money. I've known a lot of guys that work at companies, and they're there for many, many years, and they became rich. They've done really good. They've done proper investments. They have their 401ks. They're very disciplined with their money, and it doesn't take much money for them to be able to, start generating more money from the money they're making, which is another thing that, for me personally, I can manage money much better when I'm working hourly. I know how much I'm making. I know how much I can spend. So I'm more tied to a budget. So for me personally, and that's only my personality, it doesn't mean that that's what you should do. It's just, I'm talking about my personality. That worked out much, much better. Now, as far as a work discipline, I have the same amount of work discipline. I'll work long hours. I'll be the first one there, the last one to leave, either if I'm in charge of a project or the owner of the company or the contractor. But what I realized is that I did a lot of work. When you're a contractor, you're out there bidding. You're out there looking at jobs. You don't do every job you look at. There's jobs you go look at. You estimate, or you bid, or you agree to do it or don't agree to do it. There's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of time involved in finding prices, how much this is going to cost, and how much I can charge, how many man hours it's going to take. So there's a lot of time that's invested into a company or into your own company that you may not get paid for immediately. And when I say immediately, I mean in the long run. Well, of course, if you're very disciplined and you can manage your time, well, you're going to make more money. But the thing is that as a contractor, I always worked Saturdays and Sundays. I went early to work and came home late at night every day. Now, as far as making money, that's a whole different thing. Now, when I was a contractor, when I've been a contractor, I've moved a lot of money, but I didn't really stay with a lot of money. When you're a contractor, you're responsible for your own tools, insurances, bonds. Well, there's a lot, taxes. There's the materials. There's a lot involved in how much you're putting into how much you're getting out. So when you do your real math, and that's the thing. When I say real math, I know contractors say, "Yeah, I made $300,000 last year." Well, yeah, you charged $300,000. How much did you actually stay with, and how much are you in debt with right now? How many projects do you have pending? People haven't paid you, or you still got to pay materials. So when somebody says, "Yeah, I made 300,000 last year," that may or may not be the true number. You may have, 300,000, 400, half a million might have gone through your company or through your contracts. It doesn't mean you kept it all. In my case, when I work hourly, if after 40 hours I'm on overtime. If something goes wrong, I'm getting paid hourly, so I'll take the time and do it right, because they're paying me hourly. So every hour I work, I get paid. When you're a contractor, if something goes wrong, one of your guys does something wrong, you make a mistake on your estimating, a project takes longer than you're thinking, the weather affects your contracts, and some contracts are on a deadline, and you may be actually losing money. And as a contractor, everybody has been a contractor. We all know this. You don't make money on every contract. You just don't. There may be some guys that after many, many years and much experience, and they're in a trade that's very profitable, like people that build custom homes and stuff like that. They usually make money on every project, but they're set. They have their clientele. They know what they're charging, and everybody calls them. That they've made a reputation for themselves, and every time they charge, they're making money. Now, it's not easy to get there. When you start, you don't have that reputation, so you may say, "Yeah, I charge so much." That doesn't mean you're going to get that job, because somebody that charges less, if two people have no reputation, neither good nor bad, and you're the one charging more and there's one charging less, the odds are the guy that's charging less, he's going to get the job, because you don't have a reputation. He doesn't have a reputation. So the client's only going to go with the cheapest and who the client trusts. Now, once you build a reputation, then even if you're the one that charges more, they're going to say, "Well, I want him because or her, whoever the contractor is, because I know what they do. I know their quality of work, and I know what I'm getting." It's so they'll pay the little bit of extra, but it's not easy to get there. I'll be honest. It's not easy to get there. Even if you're a good tradesman, there's more to it. You got to know how to sell contracts. You got to know, presentation. You have to be available almost 24/7, because customers, they'll call you at 10 p.m. You know what? What are we doing tomorrow? What's the schedule for tomorrow? Where's this material? So you may be home thinking, I'm going to turn my phones off. It doesn't really work that way, because people want to have contact with you all the time, because it's their money, it's their investment, and they're looking for information. And if it's 10 p.m. and they want to know the information, they may call you, and because they know you're available mostly at any time. Now, being hourly, it's a whole different ballgame. It's more on budget. You're on a budget, but I do think that if you become good enough at what you're doing, you're gonna make money. You're gonna make money. You're gonna make overtime. I've always had this experience where every company I've been to, they always say we don't do overtime. We just it's 40 hours and that's all you're getting. Once they figure out you're good and they're saving money by you, like when I fix air conditioners, for example, because I do apartment maintenance, so I fix air conditioners. I do a lot of plumbing. I do a lot of in-house stuff. So they'd rather pay me overtime than have a HVAC company come out or a plumber. So I always end up making a lot of hours. That's because I'm very disciplined at what I do. I like to learn stuff. I like to do it right. So in my case, for me, hourly has worked out good. Now, there's other things that I have to say though. If you're just gonna work 40 hours and go home and watch TV and kick back, it doesn't matter what you are, either a contractor or hourly worker. You're still gonna be stuck in the same. 40 hours barely pays bills, and it really doesn't give a lot of money for growing economically. So if you're thinking about growing economically, you got to do overtime. You have to do work outside. For example, I do YouTube videos. I do have my own rental properties. There's a few things that I've invested in that, besides my 40 hours, I still make money. Now, another thing that I've noticed is your cost of living. When you're a contractor, it's oddly enough, the cost of living goes up. I don't know why. Most contractors, once they start having decent contracts, they buy a new tractor, a new trailer, a brand new truck, van, tools, and all this costs more. Or a nice house and a nice area, a nice neighborhood. Either they build their own, but most of the time it's under loans and stuff like that. So your cost of living may go up. If you're a contractor that can keep your cost of living at a bare minimum, then I guess you'd be okay. That's what I'm saying. This all depends on every person, on every personality. For me personally, being an hourly worker works out perfect because I always make my 40 hours. I make some more overtime. I usually consider, in my mind, 40 hours only pays the bills. That's it. Even though my cost of living is really low, I actually live in a mobile home. Even though I own homes, I live in a mobile home. I drive an old van, a 1999. I don't have any new cars, nothing like that. I could afford them. I do have the credit. I could afford them. I just don't because I keep my cost of living low. Either being a contractor or being an hourly employee, I still keep my cost of living low. So in that case, I was okay. Money-wise, I was okay. But I did realize that I was spending a lot of time. So there's a price. When you're a contractor, the price that you're going to pay to be successful is you're going to spend a lot of time. If you have a growing family like I do right now, or a younger family, I still got my 2 daughters in high school, you're going to spend a lot of time away from them because when you're a contractor, you're obligated to be at work Saturdays and Sundays. Sometimes my wife would say, turn your phone off on the weekend. And I told her, no, I can't because people are relying on me. They're going to call me because they know I'll be there. So I'm not going to turn my phone off on the weekend. If there's a call, I'll go do it. And I still do it. Even though I'm hourly, there may be an emergency and they'll call me and if I'm available, I'll go because that's how overtime and that all works for me. So in my case, with my discipline and the way I do things and the way I've learned to invest outside of my 40 hours, like I was saying, to me, the 40 hours only pays the bills. Only pays the bills. Even though in my case, my cost of living is so low that for my rental properties, my bills are paid. But I still consider the 40 hours only pays the bills. And then anything you do over that, that's where you're growing economically. I have a few YouTube channels. That's on investment. It takes time. It takes, cameras. This is my shop, but it's also my studio. Rental properties, when I get called to go do some of my own repairs, I have to be out there. I have to do it. Of course, it costs me money to get, buy homes and stuff like that. There's certain things. Sometimes I do side jobs where that pays that, I get extra money and the overtime. So I don't think working 40 hours is gonna make you rich. Even though I've known a lot of people that they all they do is work their 40 hours and then they're really good with money and they have their 401k plans and certain investments and they have, they're doing really well economically. In my case, I've never invested in anything other than stuff like that. I've never gone into 401ks or stocks or none of that, but I know people that do and they're making real good. So at the end of the day, I think it all depends on the personality. It all depends on your work ethic and also the trade. I got to say it too. Also the trade. If you're going to be a 40-hour employee at a McDonald's, well, I don't know how far you can get. It's going to be really hard to, advance because you can only go so much. There's only one manager per store and, everybody wants to be that manager. I don't know how far you can grow, but out in the trades, for example, the better you get, the more you can charge and they'll pay you because if they're saving money, with you. And the thing about money and hourly is that if you want to charge whatever you want to charge, as long as the company or the owner of the company or the, whoever, takes care of that, as long as you're actually making them money. If somebody were to come to me and ask me, I'll charge you $100 an hour, but I'll do this, that. And then in my mind, I know, well, I can make $200 an hour from this guy. I had no problem paying him $100 because I know I'm going to make, my 100 plus 100 I give him. So when it comes to charging hourly, if it's in your mind that you can charge whatever you want as long as they're benefiting from you. So an employee should never cost the company. I've always had that mentality. I've never cost anybody any money. Nobody's ever given me money. I've never cost anybody any money. The way I see it is I make companies or contractors, I make them money. When I work for them, they're making money from me. So I have an idea of how much they're making or saving. And then from there, I can, decide, this is how much I think I should make. Now, like I said, this is going to be different for everybody. This is what works for me, what's worked for me. Now, another thing is I know contractors, they can become rich overnight. I've seen it. I've also seen contractors go broke and lose everything they have overnight. I've seen it. I've seen contractors go into bankruptcies and they had bought different stuff, and they lost it all in lawsuits or stuff like that. So in my case, I have a few rental properties. My risk tolerance is lower because even though you may have LLCs and all that, there's still a way that they can get to you if some major happens. So I'm really careful with what I already have and how much I'm really willing to risk. So it's gonna be different for everybody. In my case, this is my experience, and I want to share it with you guys. And I'm sure there's gonna be somebody out there telling me, no, that's not the way to do it. If you ever want to advance in life and do it right, you have to be a contractor. and I have no problem with that. For you, for your personality, that's good. Not for me. And also, I know some guys are gonna tell me, you know what? I've been working for a company for 20 years, and I have $500,000 saved, and that's good for them too. So, anyways, that's my video today. The answer is there is no answer. I guess it all depends on your personality, the way you can. One more thing I'll say is that in my case, I was very good at pushing people when I was the foreman, because I was there, I was on the job, I was watching what everybody was doing, I knew exactly what everybody was good at. I knew when guys were not, after 8 hours, I knew that some of the guys were not worth paying overtime. But when you're a contractor, you're out there bidding and driving all day and looking for jobs for your guys while your guys are working. So there's a possibility that you're not watching them. Things are not going to get done as fast, I guess, unless you have a really, really good foreman. And that's a really difficult thing to do. Is finding a good foreman is not easy, because in my case, for example, as a concrete foreman, when I was a concrete foreman, I would not work for a small contractor. I wouldn't, because I know that a small contractor is going to have work some days, some weeks, and then we'll have some time off, and then there's days I'll be just be working, half days and stuff like that. So as a good concrete foreman, when I was a good concrete foreman, I only worked for big established companies where I knew I'd make my hours, and then there's a 401k, there's different ways of making money there. I never worked for a small contractor, so when you're a small contractor, it's going to be really, really difficult to find yourself a good foreman. Anyway, that's my video today, and I'll see you guys in the next video.